The U.S. is moving forward with peace talks with the Taliban. The announcement follows days of talks in the Middle East where U.S. officials stressed the economic benefits of the peace plan. It was signed in February and brought a formal end to the 19-year war in Afghanistan. The news, of course, comes as U.S. lawmakers are demanding more information about reports that Russia offered bounties to Taliban-linked fighters to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan. According to the Washington Post, the White House is not planning to immediately respond to those reports because President Trump does not believe that they are true. Joining me now is David Tafuri. He's a former State Department official and a former Obama campaign foreign policy advisor. David, good to have you with us. What's your reaction to news about the U.S. moving forward with its peace plan with the Taliban now?
Well, this is a plan that's been in the process for a couple of years now. They almost consummated the original deal in last September, and then the Taliban killed an American soldier. Then it was signed, as you mentioned, in February. One of the sticking points now is getting the Taliban and the Afghan government to agree, and that's the stage we're moving into with the envoy, Zalmay Khalilzad, trying to broker that. That's a tough thing to happen because the Taliban doesn't even acknowledge the legitimacy of the Afghan government. The Taliban also wants the Afghan government to release all prisoners. Now it's even a little more sticky because we have this media reporting that Russia was offering bounties on U.S. soldiers for the Taliban to kill U.S. soldiers. I think that compromises the ability of the U.S. to really broker this deal. President Trump plays a huge role in this. He doesn't acknowledge that those bounties happen. So this is playing out as also a political situation. As you mentioned, Congress took action in the Senate Armed Services Committee, House Armed Services Committee, to vote that the U.S. cannot pull out troops without further certifications by the U.S. government.
And David, as I mentioned, the Washington Post is reporting that the administration will not respond immediately to those allegations about Russian-paid bounties. What is the administration considering in making that decision, David?
I mean, who knows? It's an embarrassing revelation for the administration. It seems pretty clear that U.S. intelligence authorities provided reporting to the White House and to the president showing that Russia was paying these bounties. That happened in February and March. So the president should have had advance notice of this. The president has failed to take any action against Russia. I think most foreign policy officials would agree that action is warranted. Instead, the president has actually continued to make nice with Putin. In fact, just a month ago, he suggested that he wants Putin and Russia to come to the next G7 summit. In other words, it would be a G8 summit. So he did this in the wake of knowing, or at least his administration knowing, that Russia was paying to kill U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan.
Well, but the Trump administration says that it's a hoax, and we've heard that there was some disagreement about the veracity of that information. So given all of that, can we just take a step and look at the bigger picture? I think some context is really helpful here. What are Russia's goals in Afghanistan, and how would paying the Taliban to target U.S. troops factor into those goals?
Well, regarding whether it's a hoax or not, the president has continually disagreed with U.S. intelligence authorities. And the U.S. intelligence authorities don't just bring this forward without any evidence. I mean, this was apparently developed through human intelligence, and also they have financial records that seem to show this was happening. Of course, that needs to be settled within the administration. But on the broader point, Russia wants to achieve in Afghanistan, making it more difficult for the U.S. to achieve its goals there and bogging down the U.S. in Afghanistan, so it's not able to respond in places like Syria, where Russia has a vested interest and has presence, and in eastern Ukraine and Crimea, where Russia has a vested interest and a presence.
So, David, what would normally be happening behind the scenes then, if there were these allegations that came in during your time in the administration? What sort of approach would you expect the White House to take in regards to Russia?
Well, it's not surprising that bounties are being paid, tragically, unfortunately. When I was in Iraq with the State Department. We had reports from U.S. soldiers and U.S. Marines that they would frequently catch people who were paid by the insurgency to lay IEDs and to kill Americans. What's particularly galling about this, though, is it's Russia, and Russia doesn't have a formal role in Afghanistan, and it's also supposed to be friendly with the U.S., according to President Trump. What President Trump should be doing is taking action against Russia. First, calling out Putin for letting this happen, and then also putting in place sanctions and other things to condemn this type of action by Russia so that Russia doesn't do it again in other places.
All right. David Tafuri, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.